Hello there. The return of looted art is a complex and extremely emotional issue, but the debate is fundamental. And important parts of the Acropolis of Athens are in the British Museum in London. Greece and Great Britain have been negotiating a possible return for decades. After things got moving a few weeks ago, I made a video on this, the situation now seems more complicated than ever. The story begins in 1799. Thomas Bruce, 7th Earl of Elgin and a great admirer of ancient art, becomes British ambassador to Constantinople. Today's Greece was then part of the Ottoman Empire. Soon after his arrival, Elgin received from the then consul Sultan Selim III access to the Athenian Acropolis and permission to remove some stones with inscriptions and figures. There was a license for Elgin. On a grand scale, he had sculptures and 75 meters of frieze broken out of the Parthenon, the main temple on the Athenian Acropolis. The 2,500-year-old reliefs show scenes from Greek mythology. Gradually, Elgin brought the art treasures to Great Britain and sold them to the British Museum, where they are still admired by millions of visitors every year, also known as the Elgin Marbles. We are asking the British Museum to return the parts of the Parthenon to Greece, back to the monument where they belong. This is a struggle that has lasted for more than 2 centuries, says Despina Kutsumba, president of the Association of Archaeologists in Greece. Some historians therefore speak of the mother of all restitution debates in relation to the Parthenon dispute. In the early 1980s, this debate really picked up speed. Greece demanded the return of the Elgin Marbles as looted art, but the British side steadfastly refuses to back down from their position, until a few weeks ago. Last week we learned from American and British media that George Osborne, the chairman of the British Museum, spoke privately and in camera with some people from the Greek government, says Kutsumba. The problem is that all reports present as loan as a solution to the Elgin Marbles. But shortly thereafter, Greek media also reported that there had been talks in London between George Osborne, the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the British Museum, and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis personally. And the British Museum confirmed this. Its website said it was willing to loan the fragments. Archaeologist Kutsumba was not the only one who was horrified by this suggestion, because that would be an acknowledgement of the current ownership. The most important thing is the question of ownership, she says. We as the Greek state, as the Greek people, and as archaeologists do not recognize that the British Museum owns the Elgin Marbles so that it could lend us the fragments. The return of the Parthenon fragments is a very emotional issue for many Greeks. General elections are taking place in Greece this year, and Prime Minister Mitsotakis is fighting for re-election. A negotiation success in the centuries-long dispute over the Elgin Marbles would therefore come in very handy. But now the head of government has shown himself remarkably reserved in an interview with Greek state television. I do not expect immediate results, but we have already worked systematically on them. And should the Greek people renew their confidence in the government, I believe that we will achieve this goal, of course taking into account the red lines that have been drawn by all Greek governments so far, he said. Archaeologist Kutsumba believes the recent debate has done negotiations over the Parthenon fragments a disservice, because now the British Culture Minister Michelle Donnellan has also spoken out. I said very clearly that I don't think they should go back to Greece, is what Donnellan said in a radio interview with the BBC. In the end, with so many great artifacts, one would be left with the question of whether they should go back to another country. And let us not forget that these are goods of our country that we have cherished and made available to the world in the British Museum. I think to send them back would mean treating a dangerous past. Donnellan definitely wants to avoid setting a precedent with the Elgin Marbles. An early agreement is therefore probably once again a long way off. But this is a discussion that has to be held. Germany gave back a number of arts recently, and I think those pieces of art belong to the countries where they come from. I know it will be a hard strike for many museums and stuff, but the real owners could lend them back. I know that it cost a lot of money at the time when those pieces were acquired. But if those things were stolen and not officially sold by the country of origin at that time, those things have to go back. But that's my personal opinion on this one. A lot of archaeologists will probably disagree with me, especially in our museums. But that's the point of view I have. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.